G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildcard. Thank you for being here and follow my content. I do really appreciate it as you giving me the opportunity to talk about the greatest sport in the world, rugby. And you are here today because it's Tuesday. It's time to read the news. About 1 week away for the November Test Series, International Test Series, from kicking off with the All Blacks versus Japan. First up, last week it has just been announced that the Springboks will play the All Blacks in a Rugby World Cup warm-up match at Twickenham next year, just before they head off to France. So this will be a big sellout for Twickenham and good for the UK fans. And so both teams are currently kind of matched in the opposite pools at the moment. So the winner of the All Blacks pool, which includes France, will play the winner of will play the runner-up in the Springbok pool in the quarterfinals, which includes Ireland. So yeah, both teams, there's a very good chance that these two teams will run into each other in the quarterfinals. If they somehow both ended up either on top or on runner-up in their pool, they will actually the only other opportunity they will meet each other is at the grand final. So yeah, this warm-up match could potentially be the only match they play during like the World Cup period. The two teams may never play each other at all. So this will be quite an interesting match for the fans to watch, as there's a good opportunity that both teams just don't play each other at all in the Rugby World Cup, unless it's the finals. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of everyone, the All Blacks, everybody's it's doom and gloom at the moment. The dumpster fire is just roaring. You never know when the dumpster fire is just going to roaring back again. Who knows? Maybe the All Blacks lose this weekend to Japan, and then suddenly the dumpster fire is blowing black smoke up in the air again. But a lot of you probably thinks that Foster is the reason that the All Blacks are doing poorly. But I do think, to me, the real culprit that is running the All Blacks into the ground is this guy, Mark Robinson. Mark Robinson, he's the guy, in my opinion, that's running the All Blacks into the ground. I know that the Wallabies was in 2019 had a really poor support from Rugby Australia. Michael Cheika came out afterwards and talked about it, and that just really affected the team's performance in 2019. So I feel like, as much as you might want to say, the coach is the fault, I do think that the back end support from the office is really, really important for the success of a team. And Mark Robinson is really doing a terrible job. And with that being said, this guy last week basically walked into a trap. Essentially, this guy, that's how stupid it is. He basically went onto a show to this person, Alice Snedden. The show called Bad News in New Zealand. She is basically, I have to Google her, I don't know who she was. She's basically a New Zealand comedian slash, I guess, like a what do you call it, reporter or whatever. And so she's basically kind of like, she's basically in the media, and she invited him onto her show. And this guy basically walked in, like Mark Robinson walked into the show. Basically got slaughtered. He did not prepare for what was going to happen. She had a bit of a history, from my understanding, with the All Blacks in the past, where there was like an issue. Basically, in 2018, when the Chiefs won Super Rugby, the players in the aftermath and the after party basically essentially humiliated and abused a stripper, which led to New Zealand Rugby building like a commission to make sure this sort of behavior doesn't happen anymore. And Alice basically went to the Chiefs went to the Chiefs rugby club, and demanded the payment for the stripper. Demanded the payment that was missed for the stripper as a joke. So she basically, and then she end up having a tough conversation with the New Zealand Rugby. Basically, had a pretty bad run with New Zealand Rugby in 2018 after that bit of a joke that she tried to pull on New Zealand Rugby on the Chiefs. So knowing the past, you would think that Mark Robinson will either reject the invite to attend the show, or especially at a time like this when the All Blacks not performing very well, or prepare some answers before going into the show. He just did look like he didn't do either of those. So basically, she went in and just went straight for the jugular for this guy. So obviously, everybody knows this has been a while for like decades now. So every time the All Blacks lose, there's like a trend where domestic violence, especially spouse abuse, essentially goes up. So this is basically like a big trend that because that's just basically how much people are like passionate about rugby. So domestic abuse, spouse abuse, violence against women essentially goes up every time the All Blacks lose. That's like a correlation for this for a very long time. I've heard about this since I was a kid, right? So she basically confronted him about this issue and basically asked him, hey, why haven't you done anything to stamp out, basically make a statement, stand up against the sort of things as a union, right? Why haven't you stand up against it yet? And he basically just left baffled. Like he basically had no answer to the question. So when she asked him, why haven't you, stand up against it? He basically said something like, what did he respond? Yeah, he basically stumbled around and said something like, well, it's something that we haven't thought that directly about, I suppose. So when confronted about a campaign about domestic violence, something that even I know for decades has been an issue in New Zealand, he basically said, yeah, I haven't thought about it. And then she went further ahead to say that is this because there are some players in the team currently who has been a history of domestic violence. I know Seven Reese is one of them. Basically he was like, no, they're all pretty bad. And then he's just like left fumbling like, yeah, everything's bad, violence is bad, we're definitely gonna try do something about it. And she's just like, yeah, maybe instead of, next time we have this conversation, instead of saying we try to do something about it, maybe you can tell me that you've done something about it, right? Like, it's horrendous. This guy got absolutely murdered in this interview. If you want to read the whole thing, go read it on Rugby Pass. But also, some interesting points that was raised as well. New Zealand Rugby is the only sporting governing body in New Zealand that failed the gender quota on its board members and resulting in a loss of government funding. I actually did not know this. Is this like why New Zealand Rugby have to sell? Because you failed to fill the gender quota in the board? Surely, Raylene Castle, you get her in, and then that's like half the quota completed, right? Like, come on, like just basic stuff like that. So they lost government funding because they couldn't fill the gender quota in its board. It's pretty bad, pretty horrendous. So yeah, this is also talking about the incident where the Chiefs allegedly, abused the stripper, and so he basically got destroyed in this interview, and so maybe next time the All Blacks get out there, we'll see like some kind of public announcement about stand up against domestic violence. Maybe. So with that being said, the All Blacks is looking doom and gloom as well this weekend. A little bit of doom and gloom. 7 players has pulled out of the test going into Japan. So the Barrett brothers, all 3 of them, Scotty, Geordie, and Bowden, have all gone home due to their grandma passing away. Sam Whitelock and Will Jordan has an ear injury, a ear infection or something, my understanding. Folau Fakatava has a knee injury, I think, and Fainga'a Nuku went home due to family reasons. So 7 players left the squad. The good news for New Zealand, is they do have the B team traveling with them, so they have a lot of talented players to filter up into the A team. With that being said, Mark Talea is recalled into the All Black squad to fill the winger spot because Will Jordan and Fainga'a Nuku leaving the squad, so he's been called straight back in. And Obviously, the players in the B team includes Damien McKenzie, Patrick Pulutu, Osafa Amua, Brad Weber, and there's quite a few talent they can pick from to filter into the A team to help them out. But with that being said, Japan has been doing quite well. They basically had a 3-test series against the Australia B team. The Japan B team played Australian B team, and the Japan has consistently improved over the 3 weeks. They went from losing to Australia to very narrowly losing the second test, and then going on to beating Australia, I would say quite convincingly in that third game. So yeah, I think this weekend might be one of the best opportunities ever for Japan to beat the All Blacks. And yeah, I'll be very excited to see the game on the weekend. So also some news came out this week with regards to the future of Adi Savia. He's going to be taking a sabbatical in after the Rugby World Cup in early 2024 to be joining the Kobe Steelers in Japan. So he will be still contracted to New Zealand till 2025, but he will be taking a sabbatical in Japan. That's just the deal. Something that was in his contract when he re-signed with New Zealand Rugby. Riku Ioane has re-signed with the All Blacks till 2023, so he will be eligible to play for the Rugby World Cup. But yeah, after 2023, where it's going to go, nobody knows. He is quite the excitement machine, so a lot of clubs will be looking to pick him up. Yeah, so let's not talk about this. It's, New Zealand pundits are very worried about the All Blacks. They're actually talking about potentially dropping the test match to Scotland. Mils Muli Aina was talking about potentially losing to Scotland. I don't think that's the way to go. Even if you are looking at to try out new players, just throwing a game away, it's not really good for the culture of the team. I think you should you should have pride in your national jerseys and aim to win every game, even if you are trying out new players. So yeah, for the Wallabies, Michael Hooper, like we mentioned last week, returns to the team due to mental health issues. He kind of talked a little bit about why he kind of walked away. Not really in detail the reasons, but there are some things that we can't kind of picture together. So he does have a young family. Like he had a daughter or something that was born earlier, so he was basically feeling like he needs to spend some time at home with his young kid, and also he has some thoughts about post rugby and something about he was concerned about not concerned, but he had that in mind, like what he wanted to do post rugby. Especially now he's kind of like approaching the end of his career. So yeah, he's talking about some of the stuff that kind of like that's on his mind, that's attributing to his mental health issues. But yeah, that's like a quick rundown summary of what he talked about. He didn't really go into any details really. That's basically all the things that you can extract from this interview. But he basically saying that he is still not 100%. He literally said he's not 100%. And mentally he still has some of that stuff troubling him. And but he's ready to go to play some rugby. So with the rugby, with the Wallabies, we do have a few injuries as well. So we had a huge list. I'm not going to go through everything, but the latest one is Matt Phillip suffered an ACL during training just before they're about to set off. So he's out. ACL is something that's going to take a while for him to recover. So the Wallabies, left with a bit of issue. So Isaac Rodda, I believe he has an injury as well, and he's returned to Japan already. So Darcy Swain is not available because of a red card, taking out that horrendous thing he did to, what is his name? Quinton Tupaya. So he's not going to be available till 2 games in. And then, so there's quite a big list of injuries. So the Wallabies actually in response called up Ryan Smith from the Reds, and Ned Halligan has been called up from the B team to the starting squad. I think Ned Halligan will be a great substitution for Matt Phillip. Also, there was some talks about Luka Msalaka-Loto potentially joining the squad, as he is an international player, which currently there's one spot open for international players to join the squad. So there's some talks that he could potentially join. But that's the bit of injury update for the Wallabies. For Wales, there's a huge injury list for Wales. And so Wales has, let me just have a look at, I think there's another one that's a bit clearer. Yeah, so basically Wales, the latest news is that we talked about last week already. Dan Biggar is confirmed to be out. Liam Williams is also out due to their match like 2 weeks ago, essentially. But the latest update for the full Welsh team is that Lewis Lake is also out of the Autumn Nationals following an injury on the weekend. He's replaced by Bradley Roberts and what's his name? So yeah, there's also a number of players that are currently in the Welsh team are still having a bit of a niggling that's sorting through. So George North has a niggling issue with his knee. Lee Halfpenny, despite being officially returning to Welsh team, still has a hamstring that needs to be cleared before he's allowed to play. Josh Adams is not. I'm pretty sure he's actually out. He has a hand injury. He's not be able to play. Alex Cuthbert has a bit of shoulder injury, and Gareth Anscombe has a rib injury. So as a result, the Pivac, I think he recalled. What's his name? Has recalled Reece Priestland for the number 10 spot, and I think there was one other person who recalled for the team. But yeah, so the Welsh team is struggling with quite a number of injuries going to autumn. So yeah, as a result, there's some talks that potentially Reece Louis-Zammit will be placed into the 15 jersey because of the injuries that to the Welsh 15 spot. Halfpenny, Josh Adams, Cuthbert are all basically not going to be 100%. So there's a opportunity for Reece Zammit to show a bit of diversity for Welsh side. For England, a lot more people got injured on the weekend, including Owen Farrell having a HIA. So immediately England has made some addition to the squad. So Henry Slade was initially left out of the England squad. He's been called back into the squad as a result of the injuries. So on the weekend, Owen Farrell, Joni May, and Henry Arundel all out for the entire autumn international series. And so yeah, Slade, Adam Radwin, and Tom Rubach has been called into the squad. Yeah, so it's a bit unfortunate. So Owen Farrell has concussion, Johnny May an elbow injury, and Arundel with a foot injury, and they will not be playing for November. So this is another year that Owen Farrell is out for the November test. Also, Courtney Laws has been ruled out of the England training camp as well due to a continued concussion issues. So as a result, they have what is it called? Tom Pearson has been called up to the squad. So yeah, and Courtney Laws is basically the captain as well for England. So he is gonna be out. Also, the Owen Farrell had a yellow card during this game where he got concussed, and a bit funny if you're gonna watch that. But good news for England is that Marcus Smith will be in that 10 jersey, and he is the most promising talent coming out of the England side in recent times. Essentially, he became the youngest player on the weekend to reach 100 Premiership appearances, which saw him led the Harlequins winning over the Sales Shark, and I'm pretty sure the Sales Sharks were undefeated, I think, before this match. So yeah, the Marcus Smith has literally helped the team beat Sales Shark, the undefeated Sales Sharks. So also, as we talked about in the last couple of weeks now, the Gallagher's Premiership, the English Premiership, is in a lot of financial troubles. So they are basically asked to explain themselves in the Parliament next month to address the game's financial crisis, and also look at whether or not the viability of rugby in England. Yes, they're gonna be maybe getting a bailout from the government should the game becomes unsustainable. Who knows? But they're gonna be addressing the Parliament, and as a result, the debt owing by each club to the Premiership has been revealed because they had to submit that to the Parliament hearings next month. So yeah, it's actually, so yeah, obviously we have the Worcester Warriors and the Wasps, the biggest one that went bankrupt in like back-to-back weeks. So those two teams obviously owes a lot of money to them. So yeah, so the full list is out. Let's just quickly go through them and have a look at who owes what. So the Wasps is at the top, owing 112.3 million pounds to the, yeah, they're owing pounds to the to the Premiership. And then next down is the Bristol Bears, owing 51.2 million pounds. And then next down on the third is Saracens, Owen Farrell's team, $40.8 million pounds. Bath is next one down with 37.8 million, owing to the Premiership. The London Irish owes 37.3 million pounds. Next down we have Harlequins at 33.7 million pounds. The Newcastle Falcons, 32 million pounds. The Sales Sharks, 30.9 million pounds in debt. The Leicester Tigers owes 30.1 million, next one down. And the Gloucester owes 27.1 million. Northampton Saints, Dan Biggar, got dropped from this team because of financial issues, 26.5 million pounds. And then the least and most viable team, the team that's getting a lot of attention for their headscarf, the Exeter Chiefs, only owes 13 million pounds. So yeah, this is quite concerning. So that totals to 473 million pounds in debt for the Premiership. And the Worcester Warriors was not included in this sum, so many were estimating that they had at least 30 million pounds in debt. So yeah, that will push it over the $500 million pounds mark of outstanding debt for these teams. Yeah, that's not looking good. So obviously, another, everybody's announcing the teams. Scotland has announced the team, and the biggest name that missed out is Finn Russel. Finn Russel actually missed, was considered good enough to be the Lions tour number 10 ahead of Owen Farrell's. He's not selected at all by Gregor Townsend. There has been some personal issues between them two. He was basically punished at the end of the Six Nations as well. He was not selected. He was on the bench, and saw Blair Kinshorn play the final test match in the Six Nations as well. So basically there's a little bit of a story as well. So in I think the fifth round of the Six Nations, or maybe the fourth round of the Six Nations, the Scottish team, I think after they play Italy, was basically told to go home, don't party. Bunch of the players went out partying, including the captain, that is Stuart Hogg and Finn Russell. So, and then a bunch of other players. So yeah, both the players were kind of the Finn Russell is the one that kind of got punished the most. He was basically immediately the next week, he was not selected at all. He was put on the bench the next week. And then basically, it seems like a lot of that punishment went on to him. Rhys Hodge, I think he got dropped on the captaincy, but he did not get unselected, and a lot of the other players still got selected as well. So no one really missed out except for Finn Russell. So there's a lot of speculations that there's some personal issues between him and Gregor Townsend, the coach. But Gregor Townsend basically came out that the discipline issue relating to the team going out, it's not the reason that Russell is not selected. He felt like Russell is not performing, essentially, which leads to the reason of him being dropped. The one interesting note though, Townsend does have a bit of a very strong personal, I would say, have a bit of a personal ego. He had a bit of issue with what's his name, Hastings, one of the Adam Hastings, or one of the number 9s with with as well, and he basically didn't select him for the Six Nations this year. So yeah, I would not be surprised that that may have something to do with it, like his personal, his personal ego has something to do with it as well. But regardless, Adam Hastings, I think he was not selected. But yeah, I think it was Hastings. But yeah, there was a bunch of people that, basically Townsend runs a pretty tight ship. If you get on the wrong side of him, you're out. So Finn Russell is the latest, I guess, casualties in that sort of sphere. Also, the Scottish squad has announced a ex-Wallaby player, Jack Dempsey, who formerly played for the Waratahs, I believe, and he played a little bit for the Wallabies in the 2019 Rugby World Cup. To be honest, I don't have a huge memory of this guy, but yeah, this is the guy that he will potentially be debuting against the Wallabies for Scotland. So yeah, be interesting to see how that goes. The Springboks obviously has named the 26-man squad training camp. So this is not the official team that's going to be traveling to the November International Test Series, but this is just the training camp. So some of the big issues that kind of came out of the training camp is obviously the number 10 jersey. Alton Yanshies misses out on the number 10 jersey. It is initially penciled in that Johan Goosen was going to be the number fly half for this training camp, but he was put out due to an injury. So then basically Lebok probably going to be the number 9 for the Springboks. So yeah, not too sure how that's going to go. And so basically there was a few injuries in the training camp. So Manny Lebok, Sacha Gomez Zulu, Gomez Zulu, and Evan Roos has been called into the camp. So Johan Goosen, Elroy Lowe, they're no longer going to join due to basically, concussion for Goosen and ankle injury for Elroy Lowe. So yeah, very exciting, especially for Lebok and Roos. People have been talking about the two players potentially wanting to be in the team for the Rugby Championship, and they're going to get a shot potentially for the Springboks in the November International Series. And next up, so there was some talk about Sacha Gomez Zulu potentially wanting to play for England. He does have a British passport due to his father, and but yeah, it's something that was a bit of interesting talk from Rassi, basically saying that if he wants to play, he has to make his own decisions which side he wants to play for. But at the moment, he's kind of looking at Sacha playing for the South African B team and then proving himself to be worthy of the Springboks first. But ultimately, he's potentially available for England. Also there was a bit of an issue. So 2 games has been cancelled this weekend in the URC round 6. So Glasgow and Ulster were both the teams both have a outbreak of stomach bugs. So obviously they ate the burgers in South Africa. Rookie mistakes. Everybody knows you never eat the burgers in South Africa. So obviously both the teams went out and had burgers. And as a result, 2 games were postponed. So both teams were not able to fill a team essentially. And the games were postponed for the URC. Never eat the burgers in South Africa. Just a reminder. Vincent Koch is one of the casualties from the Wasp going bankrupt. So currently he doesn't have a club. He's in the Springbok squad, going to be playing for the Springboks for the November International Test Series. But yeah, he's currently without a club for the meantime. Basically the coaching stuff, is reflecting on this a little bit. They're saying, yes, Vincent hasn't played any club rugby recently, but he is in the Springbok squad he has been in the Springbok squad for the Rugby Championship, and he has played for the Springboks Rugby Champions, so they're pretty happy with where he is at the moment. So despite the lack of club rugby, they're not too concerned about Vincent Koch performing for the Springboks. Finally, Farrell has announced his team 37-man Ireland squad will be playing against the Springboks this weekend. Will be the captain by Johnny Sexton, and they will be debuting potentially six uncapped players. And and Ireland also has a B team as well, so plenty of depth to be to pick from for Ireland. Yeah, and that's the news, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Name all your thoughts on any of the articles we spoke about today. And later this week, I will be announcing a team lineup for the All Blacks versus Japan. And I will be doing a review for the All Blacks game as well. So stay tuned. Thank you for being here. Have a good week. I'll see you later this week. Cheers.